The ground trembled beneath the miners' boots, a low rumble that seemed to shake the very air around them. Captain Ethan Voss felt it first in his chest, the way a human could feel danger before the mind fully understood it. The colony on Pyros was used to minor quakes, but this one was different. It was heavier, deeper, more insistent. He glanced toward the horizon, where smoke and molten rock already painted the sky in angry shades of red and orange. "Everyone, get to the safe zone now," he shouted, his voice carrying over the alarm bells ringing through the settlement. The miners, who had been scraping ores from the volcanic rock, obeyed immediately. They trusted Ethan. He had saved lives more times than anyone could count, and his calm in chaos had earned him a reputation that even the most stubborn of miners respected. Ethan ran toward the distant crash site, a place where molten lava had begun to spill over a ridge. His eyes caught the glint of metal twisted and burning. It was not human. The shape was sleek and aerodynamic, unlike anything built by Earth engineers. Something had fallen from the sky, something alive, and it was trapped under debris. "Hold on, I'm coming," he yelled, sprinting across the hot, jagged rocks. Each step was a challenge. The ground cracked and hissed beneath his boots. Smoke stung his eyes, and ash settled on his shoulders like a choking blanket. He could hear screams from the miners, panic and confusion, but there was only one thing he could focus on. The alien girl lay pinned beneath a metal beam, her small frame trembling. Her skin was a pale, luminescent blue, and her long hair shimmered with a silver glow. She looked human in shape, but her eyes were a storm of colors, shifting like liquid light. She was unconscious, and the flames licked dangerously close to her. Ethan could see the heat warping the metal above her, threatening to crush her completely. Without thinking twice, he dropped to his knees and pressed his hands under the beam, feeling its immense weight. Human muscles were strong, but not as strong as alien machinery. Still, he refused to fail. He gritted his teeth and heaved with all his strength, sweat pouring down his face. Slowly, agonizingly, the beam shifted, and he pulled it free just as a wave of fire surged past him. He grabbed the girl, wrapping her in his jacket, and bolted toward the temporary safety of a nearby canyon. The air was thick with smoke, and the roar of molten rock made it hard to hear his own thoughts. Behind him, the ground cracked, lava flowing into newly formed fissures. The sky above glowed like fire itself, raining sparks and ash. When he finally reached a small cave that jutted from the cliffside, he collapsed, panting and dripping with sweat. The alien girl was still unconscious, but alive. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, fragile but persistent. Ethan checked her for burns. A few minor blisters, nothing critical, but her clothing had fused to some of the metal debris she had been trapped under. He tore it away carefully, treating her as gently as he could. "Don't worry," he whispered, though she could not hear him. "You're safe now." Around him, Pyros was alive with chaos. Miners were helping each other to higher ground, some carrying tools, others dragging injured colleagues. Yet here in this cave, there was only him and the girl who was not human. He studied her face. Small, delicate features, luminous eyes, and a faint glow from her skin that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. She looked scared, though unconscious. She was young, perhaps only 14 or 15 by human standards. Whoever she was, she had survived something that should have killed her. Ethan felt something stir inside him, a human instinct he did not question. It was not just the need to survive, but the need to help. No one had to tell him that any life, was worth saving. He had seen too much death, too much destruction to stand aside now. Hours passed before she finally stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing colors that shifted like molten metal. She gasped, confused and frightened. Her gaze met Ethan's, wide and alert, and he could feel the raw intelligence behind them. She was studying him as if trying to understand what kind of creature he was. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe, I'm Ethan, you're safe now." She did not speak English, yet somehow he understood her meaning. "Yes," he replied. "You're on Pyros, you're safe." Sparks rose into the sky like fireflies, painting the clouds with red and gold. "They're coming," she whispered, fear lacing her voice. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He did not know who they were, but instinct told him she was not lying. He had seen countless predators in his time, wild beasts, natural disasters, even hostile humans. The universe was full of threats, but this one, he did not yet understand. He knew one thing clearly: he would protect her. "We'll handle it," he said firmly. "Right now you rest, I'll keep watch." Ethan made a small fire near the entrance to the cave, careful not to burn anything further, and kept a lookout. The alien girl slept, exhausted from her ordeal. He watched her, realizing that her life had changed him in ways he did not yet understand. By morning, he had fashioned a stretcher from metal rods and debris. They needed to get back to the colony for medical attention, but the route was treacherous. Lava flows had shifted overnight, creating new hazards. Still, Ethan moved with purpose, guiding the girl carefully. Step by step, they made their way across the fractured terrain. Along the way, she began to recover enough to speak a few words. Her accent was strange, her phrasing unusual, but they communicated. She told him her name was Lyra. She was from a distant star system far beyond the reach of Earth's colonies. Her people had been exploring when her shuttle was attacked by unknown forces. Ethan listened, piecing together what he could. Lyra's story was incredible, but the fear in her eyes was real. Whoever had attacked her was still out there. The thought sent a chill down his spine, even under the heat of Pyros. By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking the human settlement. Smoke still rose from parts of the colony that had been scorched by the eruption. Miners and colonists worked tirelessly to repair structures, tend to the injured, and assess the damage. Ethan signaled for help, and a small group rushed to meet them. As the colonists saw Lyra, their fear and curiosity were immediate. She was unlike any life form they had encountered. Yet instead of fear or hostility, Ethan noticed something else: respect. Humans could sense bravery. They could see that he had risked his life for another being, alien or not. It mattered. In the medical bay, Lyra was treated. Her injuries were minor compared to what they could have been, but she was weak, dehydrated, and in shock. Ethan stayed by her side, refusing to leave. He answered questions from curious doctors, explained her condition, and reassured the girl whenever she woke and looked at him with wary eyes. Through the day, Ethan learned more about her abilities. Lyra had a form of telepathy, subtle at first, only flashes of thought and emotion that he could feel in moments of calm. She could sense danger, communicate feelings without words, and perhaps even influence small objects with her mind. The thought was staggering, yet Ethan did not feel fear. He felt awe and determination. By evening, the colony had stabilized. Fires were out, injured miners were treated, and temporary shelters had been set up. Lyra, though still weak, was more composed. She looked at Ethan, gratitude shining in her unusual eyes. "You saved me," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan smiled, brushing ash from his sleeve. "I didn't think, I just acted. That's what humans do. We help even when it's dangerous. Even when we don't know what we're getting into." And Ethan, watching her, realized that this was only the beginning. Saving Lyra had changed everything. He did not yet know how far this path would take them, what dangers awaited, or what rewards lay hidden among the stars. But he knew one thing with certainty: humans could rise to challenges that no one else could. And in the shadow of a burning world, among molten rock and ash, a bond had been formed that would shape the destiny of both their worlds. The morning sun barely touched the horizon when Lyra opened her eyes again. The first thing she saw was the soft white walls of the colony's medical bay. The hum of machines, the smell of antiseptic, and the faint clatter of human voices filled the room. She blinked, trying to remember how she had gotten there. The memory of fire, falling metal, and the crushing heat still lingered in her mind like smoke. Ethan sat nearby, cleaning a set of mining tools. He looked up as she stirred, a small smile on his face. "You're awake," he said simply. "How are you feeling?" Her skin still glowed faintly, a reminder that she was not human. "Better," she said, her voice soft and hesitant. She glanced at him, as if studying his every movement, trying to understand this strange creature who had saved her life. "You saved me." Anyone would have. He had seen his share of dangers on Pyros, but whatever force had destroyed her shuttle and left her stranded on this volcanic world was not natural. It was deliberate. It was hunting her. "Who are they?" he asked, leaning forward. Lyra's eyes darkened with worry. "Hunters from far away. They want something I carry, star maps, secrets of my people." "If they get them?" She didn't finish the sentence, but Ethan understood. The galaxy was full of powerful beings, some cruel, some indifferent. Whoever had attacked her could devastate this colony if given the chance. Ethan's mind raced. Pyros was vulnerable. The humans here were strong and resourceful, but they were not prepared for alien mercenaries with advanced weapons. Yet humans had something that no one else could rely on: courage and ingenuity. He would use every skill he had to protect her. "We need to get you stronger first," he said firmly. "Then we'll figure out how to keep you safe." Her glowing skin responded unpredictably to human medicine, and her healing was faster than human norms, but it was uneven. Ethan stayed beside her, keeping her calm when flashes of fear or pain crossed her face. "You have human patience," she said after a while, her voice barely above a whisper. I can feel your thoughts. You can read minds. The colony's security system had detected something approaching. Ethan rushed to the observation window. In the distance, a small fleet of ships hovered above the volcanic plains, sleek, fast, and deadly. These were not scouts. They were hunters, and they were coming for Lyra. Ethan's jaw tightened. He knew he had little time. The humans in the colony were skilled in survival and mining, but they were not trained for alien combat. Still, they were clever. He began barking orders, organizing teams to fortify the colony, set traps, and create distractions. Lyra watched silently, her eyes wide with both fear and fascination. Humans, you think so fast? You plan even with little time. We adapt, that's what humans do. Ethan moved among them, coordinating, encouraging, and sometimes doing the work himself. Lyra helped where she could, using her telepathy in subtle ways. She could sense the approaching ships' movements, warn of danger, and guide the humans through traps. But it was Ethan's decisions, his leadership, and his courage that allowed them to prepare effectively. The humans had ingenuity, he gave them direction. As night fell, the alien hunters descended. Their ships cut through the sky, sleek and black, firing pulses of energy that left scorch marks in the volcanic rock. The colony's defenses held, not because they were powerful, but because they were unpredictable. Humans set traps in unexpected ways. Lava channels redirected to cut off approaches, makeshift barricades that funneled enemies into narrow paths, and decoy shelters that drew fire away from the medical bay. Ethan moved with precision, coordinating the defenses. He shouted instructions, moved wounded miners, and stayed near Lyra, protecting her with his body when necessary. Despite the danger, he never faltered. The humans fought not with alien technology, but with determination, cleverness, and unity. Lyra watched, amazed. She had faced advanced alien races before, and humans were not supposed to survive against them. Yet here they were, not only surviving but countering, improvising, and sometimes even turning the hunters' attacks back against them. After hours of chaos, the hunters retreated. They had underestimated the humans' resourcefulness and courage. Ethan and the colony had survived. Lyra's eyes shone with a mix of relief and awe. "You, humans are amazing," she said, finally allowing herself to relax. "Even against stronger beings, you fight. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's human nature." Lyra could not remain here, not if the hunters discovered her location. But she also could not travel alone. Ethan proposed a bold solution. They would leave the planet, taking Lyra to a hidden outpost on a distant moon, one that had been abandoned by humans decades earlier. It was risky, but staying was riskier. The humans prepared a ship, retrofitted with mining equipment for speed and defense. Ethan personally checked every system, ensuring it could handle the volcanic atmosphere during takeoff and the long journey through space. Lyra watched as humans worked tirelessly to adapt technology, to make something functional from what others would see as scraps. She realized then that humans were not just strong or brave, they were clever beyond expectation, able to use limited resources to achieve impossible goals. When the ship was ready, Ethan helped Lyra aboard. She looked at him, eyes wide with worry and gratitude. "Will it be safe?" she asked. Ethan smiled, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "As safe as we can make it. We'll watch each other's backs, we'll survive, that's what humans do." "You're not like anyone I've ever met," she said softly. Ethan chuckled. "Neither are you, but I'm glad we met." But he also knew something undeniable. Humans had a way of facing danger, of rising above it, that no other species could match. Courage, ingenuity, empathy, these were weapons as powerful as any technology. Lyra finally turned to him, a small smile forming on her lips. "I think I will survive with humans." That's how it works. And in the face of the unknown, they could accomplish the impossible. The ship cut through the blackness of space, silent except for the hum of the engines. Ethan sat in the control room, eyes scanning the star map. Pyros was far behind them now, a glowing ember in the void, but the danger was far from over. Alien hunters had seen Lyra escape, and more would follow. Each star system was a potential threat. Each jump through space brought them closer to safety, but also closer to unknown enemies. Lyra sat across from him, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes fixed on the view beyond the viewport. Her face was pale, but her glow had returned, faint and steady. She spoke softly, her voice a musical ripple in the quiet cabin. "They will not stop. Humans, you are lucky to survive this long. Because no life is worth less than mine. Because courage isn't about fighting for yourself, it's about protecting others. That's human nature. You'll see as long as you survive with us. Perhaps some were worth trusting. The first jump through hyperspace was smooth, but the ship emerged into a system under surveillance. A small patrol of alien vessels had detected them. Ethan immediately assessed their options. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outclassed in technology, but humans had ingenuity and unpredictability. "Listen," he said to Lyra, pointing at the map. "We can't outrun them directly, but we can trick them. Follow my lead and don't panic." The alien ships pursued, firing pulses that left glowing scars in the darkness. Ethan guided the ship through narrow gaps and dead ends, using the terrain to their advantage. Lyra's telepathy helped. She sensed the movements of the hunters, predicting their attacks before they happened. "Left," she whispered, not speaking aloud, her thoughts touching Ethan's mind. "Red pulse behind." Using a dense asteroid field, they disappeared from sensors and radar. The hunters, frustrated and unable to anticipate human creativity, retreated for now. Ethan exhaled, his hands trembling slightly from the stress. Lyra looked at him, awe in her shifting eyes. "You humans are clever," she said. "Even against stronger beings, you find ways to win. We do more than survive. We solve problems. We adapt. That's what makes us dangerous to anyone who underestimates us." She absorbed every lesson, amazed by the simplicity and effectiveness of human methods. One night, as the ship floated near a small, barren planet, Lyra spoke again. "Why do you care so much about me? I am alien, different. Your people do not need me. I would hope someone would do the same for me, no matter who I am." The human crew adapted to Lyra's presence, learning her habits, understanding her abilities, and respecting her limits. She, in turn, began to teach them about her people, the Lyrans, and the secrets she carried. She could not share everything. Her people's archives were forbidden knowledge, and the hunters were ruthless. But she revealed small fragments, hints of hidden star maps, technology that could reshape energy, and knowledge that could give humanity a leap forward if used wisely. Ethan listened carefully, realizing the potential of what she held. But more importantly, he realized that her survival depended not on the power she carried, but on human courage and creativity. They had already outsmarted hunters once. They could do it again. Their next challenge came when they approached a system that seemed abandoned, a planet with a derelict human outpost. Ethan hoped it would serve as a temporary refuge. But as they landed, sensors detected automated defenses still active from decades before. Turrets, drones, and traps lay dormant, waiting for intruders. Ethan scowled. "Humans didn't leave this behind for fun. We'll have to be careful." She guided them through patterns in the sensors, predicting which corridors were dangerous. Their combined abilities allowed them to reach the inner archive, a room filled with old data cores and hidden compartments. There they discovered ancient human technology, partially functional but adaptable. Ethan smiled. Even in ruins, humans had built systems that could endure decades, that could be repurposed and controlled. He realized that survival wasn't about strength alone. It was about planning, creativity, and leaving a legacy. Humans were masters of improvisation, and that made them unpredictable. As night fell on the desolate planet, Ethan and Lyra set up camp within the outpost. Outside, the stars were sharp and cold, reminders of the vast universe they navigated. Lyra, who had once faced impossible odds, now slept peacefully, trusting humans to keep her safe. Ethan sat at the observation window, watching the void, thinking of the hunters who would surely return. "They will not give up," he said softly. "No," Lyra replied, still half asleep. "But humans adapt. Humans survive." The hunters were close, they always were, but the humans were ready. They had prepared traps in the corridors, set decoys in rooms, and rigged the ship to launch a counterattack if needed. Lyra sensed his thoughts, her telepathy flickering faintly. "Be careful," she warned. Ethan smiled, a spark of confidence in his eyes. "We always are." Ethan triggered a sequence of lights and sounds, creating false signatures on the sensors. Automated defenses activated at precise intervals, causing the probe to malfunction. It veered off course, sending signals to the main fleet that the outpost was abandoned. Lyra watched, amazed. Even without strong weapons, humans win. And humans, they survive when no one else thinks they can. Together, they became a formidable team, human ingenuity combined with alien insight. Ethan realized something profound. Lyra was not just a charge to protect, she was a partner. Together, they could face dangers that neither could overcome alone. And more importantly, he understood that humans had a strength no other species could match. the ability to rise, adapt, and turn impossible situations into survival. As the last light of the distant sun faded, Ethan looked at Lyra. "Tomorrow, we move again," he said. "We keep going always forward. There's a galaxy out there full of danger and opportunity. Humans will survive. And we'll make sure you do too." And so, in the shadow of abandoned outposts and the vast emptiness of space, Ethan and Lyra prepared for the next stage of their journey. Humans were clever, resourceful, and fearless, and in this strange, dangerous universe that would be enough. The derelict outpost had served its purpose as a hiding place, but Ethan knew it would not protect them forever. The hunters would not give up, and Lyra's life depended on moving forward. She had shared fragments of information about a hidden Lyran archive, a repository of knowledge and technology that could change the course of human history if handled wisely. It was dangerous, but there was no other choice. Ethan examined the star maps carefully. The archive was located on a small, icy moon in a remote system. Its surface was jagged with glaciers and crevasses, the kind of place humans would consider uninhabitable. But the Lyrans had built the archive to survive time, war, and neglect. To reach it, they would have to navigate through hazards far beyond Pyros volcanoes or space pursuers. Lyra leaned over the console, her glowing hands brushing across the star map. The archive protected, very old, dangerous. Only those who understand can survive. The cold bit through the hull and the wind howled like a living thing. Ethan guided the landing with precision, showing once again that humans could make quick, decisive decisions under pressure. As they stepped out onto the ice, Lyra hesitated. The archive traps, some deadly, even humans may die. Humans survive where others fail. Using mining tools from their ship, they carefully chipped away sections of the wall, creating a narrow passage. Every step required precision. One wrong move and they could trigger a collapse. Lyra guided him through telepathic hints, sensing pressure points and unstable segments. "Left, now, wait, no, wait," she whispered mentally, her thoughts flickering like sparks. Ethan followed her guidance, trusting instincts combined with her knowledge. Together, they made it through safely. The interior of the archive was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. Massive chambers stretched endlessly, filled with glowing panels, floating holograms, and machinery that hummed with a low, vibrating energy. Ancient Lyran symbols covered the walls, some pulsing as if alive. Ethan ran his hand over one, feeling the strange energy beneath his fingers. Lyra's eyes widened. Many traps, security still active, must proceed carefully. Ethan paused, studying the patterns, timing the pulses of light. He motioned for Lyra to follow, demonstrating patience and calculation. Step by step, they moved through the grids. Lyra's telepathy helped anticipate shifts, but it was Ethan's careful observation and timing that allowed them to succeed. Further inside, they encountered pressure-sensitive floors and motion detectors. Ethan and Lyra worked together, improvising. Ethan used metal plates from the ship's cargo to create temporary bridges and shields. Lyra concentrated, using her abilities to sense the faint energy signatures of the traps. Every move was tense, but the human-alien partnership proved effective. Hours passed as they navigated deeper into the archive. The air grew colder, the corridors darker, and the machinery more complex. At times, Lyra would pause, her glowing hands hovering over panels, deciphering signals humans could not understand. Ethan watched and learned, impressed by her insight. He realized that humans and Lyra together were stronger than either alone. At last, they reached the central chamber. A massive platform floated in the middle, covered with holographic star maps, energy schematics, and glowing data cores. Ethan stepped forward, marveling at the scale of knowledge contained within. This was more than just technology, it was a legacy, a gift from the Lyrans to those capable of understanding it. Lyra approached the platform, her glow intensifying. This, all of it, powerful. Can help humans, but must careful others may seek. Lyra guided him, warning of overloaded systems and potential traps that could destroy the archive. The process took hours, but humans were patient when it mattered most. Just as they finished, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Ethan's heart raced. The hunters had tracked them. Drones began moving through the corridors, scanning for intruders. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. Time to move. We're not done yet, but we'll survive. Lyra contributed where she could, sensing the drone's energy and guiding Ethan through hidden passages. One drone fired directly at them, but Ethan acted without hesitation, shoving a metal panel into its path, short-circuiting it. The humans' improvisation and courage kept them alive where technology alone would have failed. By the time they reached the surface, night had fallen over the icy moon. Ethan and Lyra raced toward the ship, the wind tearing at their suits. The drones followed, but Ethan had prepared a final trap. Using explosive charges and ice formations, they created a series of collapsing tunnels that blocked pursuit. The hunters' technology, superior in firepower, could not adapt to the sudden hazards. The ship lifted off, engines roaring against the cold vacuum of space. Lyra collapsed into a seat, exhausted but exhilarated. Humans, incredible. Even against traps and machines, you survive. Not in weapons, not in speed, but in courage and creativity. As the icy moon disappeared behind them, Ethan considered the next steps. The Archive's knowledge could change humanity's future, but they needed time, safety, and preparation to use it wisely. The hunters would not give up. They would pursue Lyra to the ends of the galaxy. But Ethan knew one thing: humans could face anything, adapt, and survive. The ship moved silently through the void, carrying them toward distant stars, toward a future that was uncertain, dangerous, but full of possibility. Humans had proven time and again that courage, ingenuity, and determination were more powerful than any alien technology. With Lyra at his side, Ethan felt ready to face whatever challenges awaited them next. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, puzzles, and wonders. But humans were clever, resourceful, and fearless, and that would make all the difference. The ship glided silently through the endless darkness of space, stars streaking past like rivers of light. Ethan sat in the cockpit, his hands resting on the controls, though he barely needed them now. He was alert, always aware of the dangers that lurked in the galaxy, but for the first time since rescuing Lyra, there was a sense of calm. Lyra sat across from him, her glowing skin illuminating the cabin in soft waves of silver and blue. She had grown stronger since Pyros, her injuries fully healed, and her trust in humans had deepened. She still carried the weight of the Lyran secrets she had protected, but she no longer looked afraid. Instead, she looked determined, as though she understood that her survival and the knowledge she held depended on the humans beside her. Ethan glanced at her and smiled faintly. "We're almost there. Just a little further, and we'll have time to rest, to plan. Humans may not be the strongest, or the fastest, or the most advanced, but we adapt. That's what makes us dangerous to anyone who underestimates us. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." But humans were clever, and Ethan had learned that being clever often mattered more than raw power. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," he said calmly. "We'll show them that humans can think faster than machines. Follow my lead." Ethan guided them through a series of tight maneuvers, weaving through asteroid fields and magnetic storms. Lyra's telepathy helped him anticipate attacks, warning him when the enemy aimed ahead of them or tried to flank. Hours passed as they raced through space, the hunters relentless in their pursuit. Ethan had no choice but to outsmart them. He plotted a course toward a densely packed system of small planets and gas clouds, terrain that would be nearly impossible for the hunters to navigate quickly. As they entered the cluster, Ethan set a trap. He released decoys, small drones programmed to mimic the ship's energy signature, while the real ship slipped into hidden corridors between asteroids. The hunters followed the false signals, crashing into debris and triggering alarms among themselves. Humans had survived not because they had better weapons, but because they were unpredictable. Lyra watched in awe. "Even with less power, you win. Humans, amazing. Intelligence without courage is wasted. Humans combine both." As they landed, the colony's inhabitants greeted them cautiously. Humans were wary by nature, but they trusted Ethan. When they saw Lyra, their initial fear transformed into admiration for his bravery. He had saved a life that others might have considered lost, and in doing so, he had earned respect across worlds. Lyra was taken to a secure wing, where the human scientists began examining the data cores she had helped retrieve. The knowledge was staggering: advanced energy systems, star maps that charted unexplored space, and blueprints for technology far beyond what humans had achieved. But Ethan knew the real reward was not the technology itself. It was what humans could do with it, guided by wisdom and courage. Over the next days, Lyra worked alongside humans, teaching them about her species and their technology. She shared insights into energy manipulation, transportation systems, and star mapping. Yet she always deferred to Ethan, trusting his judgment and human instincts. "You humans," she said one evening, watching the researchers adapt her teachings into practical designs. You are clever, not just brave, clever and strong in ways I did not know. It's thinking, adapting, and caring. She realized that while her species might be advanced, humans had something far more valuable: the ability to rise to challenges, improvise, and overcome impossible odds with courage and unity. One evening, Ethan and Lyra walked outside the colony, gazing at the stars. The sky stretched endlessly, dotted with distant suns and galaxies. The hunters were still out there, somewhere in the vastness of space, but for now they were safe. You changed everything, Lyra said softly. You saved me, yes, but also you showed humans can do more than survive. They can thrive. That's how we thrive, even in the harshest worlds. It was the first signs of a new colony expansion. Humans had begun constructing advanced stations, powered by what they had learned from the Lyran archive. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but humans were making their mark. Lyra looked at Ethan, awe in her eyes. The reward of being saved is this. Humans can do this, even with little technology. Courage, creativity, and determination, that's more powerful than anything else. That's what makes humans special. We survive, we thrive, we turn impossible odds into opportunities, and we help those who cannot help themselves. And for the galaxy, in the quiet of the evening, as the colony hummed with life and progress, Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. Lyra's presence, the knowledge they had gained, and the courage humans had shown would ripple across the galaxy. Humans had proven once again that no matter the danger, no matter the odds, they could survive and shape the future. Lyra leaned against him, her glow reflecting the stars. I am glad you found me. I am glad I trust humans, and you. Humans had survived volcanoes, alien hunters, traps, and the unknown. They had saved an alien life, gained knowledge, and proven that courage, ingenuity, and empathy were powers stronger than any weapon. And in the shadow of distant worlds, with Lyra at his side, Ethan understood the truth of it all. Humans were unstoppable, not because they were the strongest, not because they had the most advanced technology, but because they dared to act when others would hesitate. Because they believed in protecting life. Because they refused to give up. The galaxy waited, full of challenges and adventures. But humans, as always, would rise to meet them, and in doing so they would continue to prove that courage, wisdom, and ingenuity could shape the fate of worlds. Ethan turned to Lyra one last time. The journey isn't over, he said, but whatever comes, we'll face it together. Humans survive, humans thrive, and now we have a friend who sees the same. Yes, together,